Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new series that I am making, known as Homebrew Help. Today, the first of the series, I will be explaining how to homebrew. I'll explain the basic ideas and several examples. First, we have to think, what is homebrew? Now, the word itself is just a fancy word of saying original, or OCs, original designs, original characters, something made by yourself or made by somebody else. That was their idea. Nothing official, it's not in any books, just made by someone's mind. That is homebrew. It can be yours, it can be somebody else's, but it's good to let your players/DMs know you're going to add it first to make sure the flow is good. But it's not the only thing you gotta do. For instance, balance. Now, I myself am no master of balance and balancing weapons, but I can definitely say giving your characters a Wukong staff when level 1 is a bad idea. Same as giving them a feather that does 1 point of damage at level 20. Far, far bad and good decisions. But how about let's make those decisions less bad? For instance, the Wukong staff. What would that do? Let's say that specific weapon allows you to do d12 damage and change its size from small to large, allowing the players to hold them in any way, shape, or form. Yes, that would be a good, very powerful weapon, especially for a monk. But here's a good way to balance it out. Perhaps it needs something. Perhaps it needs a rare item in order to fully complete. Let's say your party finds it in the beginning, and in the end tries to go on an entire quest to find perhaps all the jewels that need to be inserted into it. Perhaps the staff is broken up, and now they only have one part of it, a smaller, weaker, perhaps a baton or something that they can use. And the more parts they get, and the more powerful it gets. Not only is this a plot device allowing you to move the plot forward, but it can also provide a very good storytelling and overall talking point with your players. But let's move over to the feather. A 1 damaged feather. But what would the feather do? You can't just make it do damage at level 20. So, actually, let's give you 2 ideas. The first, for your damage dealers. The fighters, the barbarians, all of those. First, let's simply combine it with something. Let's make it easy. A sword. Now you have a feather-like sword. What did it come from? It came from a rock, or perhaps a thunderbird, or perhaps a bird of your own creation. A creature so large that one of its wings can block out the sun for 3 hours while it flies by. And the smallest of the feathers, can be used as a great sword. Now that is a good idea. Or as a magical item. Whatever creature it sticks, the DM rolls a 1d20, and whatever that number lands on, the creature turns into for a temporary time. Essentially, a portable version of polymorph, but only for birds. Perhaps it would turn to a sparrow or a chicken, or it may turn to a rock. There are plenty of different ideas that it can turn into, and even a couple stupid ideas your players can turn themselves into. Perhaps to sneak into the king's castle, perhaps to sneak into the thieves' guild. Perhaps they use it and hopefully turn themselves into a rock to fight a bigger rock that's coming. Who knows? Let your players decide what to do with it. The best part's always seeing what they do. Now then, Now then, this is a good way for balancing. Let's move on over for creating the actual items. First, let's go with spells. Now then, think of an animal. Any animal in the world. You got the animal? Good. Now tell me, what is the main characteristic of that animal? Does it fly? Does it bite? Does it scratch? Does it have natural weapons? Well, let's go with the weapons one for now. Now then, let's say you chose a mammal. Perhaps you chose a reptile, perhaps you chose a fish. But suspend your disbelief for just 1 second and say you chose a mammal. More specifically, let's choose a koala. What would this spell do? Well, there's an obvious point. The spell would summon a koala on the opponent's face, doing doing 1 point of damage, doing 1 point of damage per round. But the big point is this: the creature itself must succeed a wisdom saving throw to not get knocked down and or distracted by the raging koala that's on its face. Is that a good idea? Perhaps not so. Then let's move over to fish. Let's go with 3 different types of fish. The great white, a swordfish, and needlefish. 3 fish that are very combat related. First, let's go over with the needlefish. It's what you expect, a miniature swordfish. The spell can easily allow, let's say the spell can be first a cantrip, but the higher level spells, the higher level it gets. From level 0 cantrip all the way to a level 9. And every time that the cast is spelled, you summon 5 needlefish. And each one is connected to its own dice. You roll 5d20s and you connect them to it. And every time a level goes up, you add another 5. Is that overpowered? Is that underpowered? That is for y'all to decide. But, no. Anyways, I'm not entirely sure if this is a good spell, but it's a fun one. Now this next one is for the spellcasters that like to get a bit physical sometimes. Let's go with the swordfish. Now, this one could be a very interesting idea if we start to get thinking for a second. What else uses swords? Knights? Musketeers? Let's choose that. Let's say, for instance, you use the spell known as 3 Musketeers, and in return, a swordfish appears in your hand, right perfect for you to use as a blade, along with 2 others appearing right beside it to be able to use in combat. With every successful strike, the other ethereal blades strike as well. Let's say your opponent's blocks. The other 2 blades are blocked as well. But every time yours blade strikes, the other 2 strikes as well. This only lasts for 2 rounds, but this can easily take down opponents that are not ready for that. Perhaps you're running a spell that's a bit less direct. Then let's move over to the Great White, and for the surprise attack spell. Let's say that you decided that you wanted to set a trap. In return, you would cast a spell known as Sneak Attack. The spell would essentially disguise a bit of area and open that area into a pocket dimension that's nothing filled but water and sharks. More specifically, a great white. And if a creature does not exit the pool of water within 2 turns. This great white will then attack the creature, rising up out of the water like a torpedo, grabbing them and pulling them back under the water. The creature then must every round must save its on a strength saving throw in order to get out of the jaws of the shark, along with getting back on land. This is a good way to get powerful opponents off of your back for a second and get sure that they don't exactly get back up for lesser opponents. Now then, what do y'all think of these spells? Yes? No? Let's get back to it. Let's talk about races next. Now, races, I would say, would be the easiest to possibly make. Why? It's very simple. Now, pick a race, any race. Pick an animal, any animal. Let's go with a deer. Now then, what would this deer people do? Let's say they would have a +2 in dexterity due to, well, them being very skittish and runny. What else would they do? Let's say they had natural weapons. Let's say they have the ability to break off their own antlers in the males and use them as a weapon. A weapon that did 1, 2, 3 d4 damage. No, a simple d6 would do. And it would take it would take at least 2 long rests in order for the antlers to grow back. Now, this itself is a pretty basic idea, but don't forget, one of the best parts are lore. And a good way to add a monster to the same place. Perhaps there's a creature known as the not deer, or whatever you call this deer-like race. Something that pretends to be it, but doesn't entirely fit in. Perhaps it's a subspecies of mimic. Perhaps it's something deeper. Perhaps it's a curse passed down through lines of generations. Maybe it's a creature of dark origins trying to mimic one, fit into society. Perhaps they eat their children, perhaps they eat them. Maybe it just wants to fit in. That is for the cruel and or fun dungeon masters to decide. Have fun with this idea. But I definitely would be careful with some ideas. For instance, let's go with a overpowered idea. Let's go with a squid or octopus people. Now, this may be confusing for a second, but just think about it first. Okay, yeah, that's not working. But what would be the powers of this thing? I would say, in exchange for their numerous abilities, they do not have any. They have a +2 into their intelligence, since they're one of the smartest creatures in the seas. They have the ability to squeeze into any creek and crevice. Bars, squeeze right through. Door, squeeze through the keyhole. Anything that's big enough to fit their beaks, which is roughly 1 inch in diameter for them, they can fit through. Along with advantage with grappling, suction cups and all. This itself would be a fantastic class to be used as a multi-class of rogue and wizard, or rogue and sorcerer. You can easily make your octopus human hybrid, essentially, crawl into a ceiling, wait for foes to come by, and cast spells with its increased intelligence to essentially be very effective against them. Or perhaps you're looking to be more physical. Let's go with a bear. A bear race would gain a +2 to strength and a +1 to constitution. The bear race would also be a medium size, although on the larger size of mediums. 7 feet tall, 8 as well. These these creatures would have the strength to quite literally roll over boulders. The natural. So I would say the natural species would have at least a +2 or 3 in strength. And their running speed, of course. I would say that these creatures would be much faster than normal creatures. Let's go with a total, instead of 30 feet, let's go with around 40 feet, or even 50 for those who really want to get really fast. But let's also give them a extra sense known as smell. This sense allows them to essentially have increased perception, allowing them to smell enemies from larger distances away, smell food, smell rotting enemies, and even smell, well, spells. I'm pretty sure a fireball or firebolt would have a very distinct smell to it, wouldn't you say? Now, this itself would be an extremely overpowered idea, so we have to limit it a little bit. Let's say that it has a -1 or 2 to its intelligence. Bears don't usually use their brain that much anyways. This would help balance it out on that will help with certain traps that your player who decides to use this bear race to do. But it's not always a good idea to pick up something like a bear. That itself would be powerful. Let's go with something a bit more reptilian. A Komodo dragon, perhaps. Now then, the Komodo dragon, I would say, would have, again, a +1 to strength, a +1 to. Well, let's think about it. What exactly is the strength of a Komodo dragon? They're strong, they're defensive, and what else? 3, 2, 1. Their constitution. These creatures, they would have a +1 to strength and a +2 to constitution, thanks to their little ability, bacteria bite. And no, I'm not fully caught up on the complexity that is a Komodo dragon mouth. Venom, bacteria, your choice. On an unarmed attack, which in this case would be a bite, the creature would be poisoned. The poison itself the damaged area would be considered inoperable. And if the opponent is using something like a bow or two-handed weapon, that weapon would either gain the ability to essentially not use it as well. I definitely don't think you can use an axe one-handed. Along with, let's say, smell. Yes. If you decide to bite an opponent and they get away, your sense of smell can allow you to detect the exact direction that they went, up to 3 miles away. Quite the distance, right? Well, that's how far. Well, that's just a small, rough distance that I can guess that the Komodo Islands are, at bare minimum. And Komodo dragons can track things all over the island. They're actually the largest of the lizard family. Pretty impressive. But those are just stats. Let's get into a race that would be more lore-based. Let's go with a moth-like race. Now this is one of my own. The Lunars, as they are called, are very nomadic, not living in one place or another. People like to wear very sparkly objects. They see something as valuable as, let's say a rare metal, platinum perhaps. But if it's not shiny, they don't want it. They would much rather trade a much more valuable artifact that doesn't shimmer and shine for a glass stone that shimmers like the sun. They would often wear jewelry all over their body, jewelry in between their antennas, tangled in between, along with a special event that appears only once a month, the lunar jump. Only the bravest of the lunars attempt this challenge, flying up to the moon. Those who believe, those who participate in this little challenge, believe that once they reach the moon, they will reach pure happiness, bliss, and power. You see, they are naturally drawn to light, but too many has flown high toward the sun have fallen, so they chose the second best thing, the moon. Perhaps they're blessed by the moon goddess. Perhaps the shadow creatures wants to take them. One way or another, they like the light. Now that is what I say would be a pretty good lore with their one specific race. Is it good? Is it bad? I have no idea. I just make this to make people happy and give them good ideas. But as this begins to close down, I would like everyone a reminder of one small thing. Even if somebody makes something similar, it's still your own. Even if you make a pumpkin headed monster, it doesn't mean that that's the Headless Horseman. It just means that's a character with a pumpkin on their head. It's all that it is. Don't undersell yourself. Sometimes you need to look at it from a different angle. Ask a friend. After all, a butterfly can never see how beautiful its wings truly are. Anyways, for everyone who's listening, I hope you all have a fantastic day, night, or whatever. And good night.